Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for December 10th of 2023, and currently we have a dual slight risk setup, one for northern Florida there, as well as another slight risk for eastern North Carolina into southern Virginia, tied together by a marginal threat. Threats include a 5% tornado threat for both slight risk locations, as well as a 15% wind threat for both slight risk locations, both of which would be able to give up to a slight risk on their own, so we don't really have any particular threat fueling these slight risk areas, but we will be primarily covering our tornado threat, but I will touch on our damaging wind threat. And then we also have our hail threat, which is pretty much nothing for today. And then for tomorrow, currently no organized or any general thunderstorms forecasted for tomorrow, should be quite clear. And the same goes for our day 3 outlook. And then for our day 4 to day 8 outlook, we currently don't have anything issued. Taking a look at our WPC outlook, starting off with our excessive rainfall forecast, we are expected to see quite a bit of flash flooding for today, with a moderate threat that is issued for central Massachusetts into parts of Connecticut and Rhode Island, as well as a pretty big slight risk and marginal threat extending a very good portion of the Atlantic coast here, as well as another slight risk for southern Georgia and northern Florida in the Panhandle, as well as a marginal threat for some of the western parts of Oregon and southern Washington. For tomorrow, we do have a slight risk for Maine, with a marginal threat that does extend into Massachusetts. And then for day 3 outlook, we currently don't have anything issued as far as flash flooding. And then for our winter weather outlooks, for today we are expected to see quite a bit of heavy snow across the Appalachian Mountains. We could see snow anywhere from anywhere north in the Appalachians, anywhere north of the North Carolina and Tennessee border, up into New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. And then we could also see a little bit of heavy snow that's going to be a little bit more isolated for some of the Rocky Mountains there. And then for tomorrow, we are expected to see the possibility of some heavy snow for the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. And then for day 3 outlook, we are expected to see some heavy snow for a very small location in northern New Mexico, as well as some portions of New York and also the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And then we can also take a look at our surface analysis. As of right now, we do have that squall line indicated by this dotted and dashed line ahead of the cold front extending into the Gulf of Mexico and northern Florida. We aren't seeing that extended up across the rest of the Atlantic basin, where we are expected to see severe thunderstorms, and that's because anywhere to the north of that, the cold front did have to pass over the Appalachian Mountains, which did make it extremely disorganized, and it's kind of a broken line of rain showers now, but it will still be able to support the threat of some embedded tornadoes along that line. And we've also been seeing that slight risk that is associated with that squall line there. That slight risk has kind of just been moving slowly eastward, ever so slowly, with each new SPC update. Probably not going to show you that, but we will have to watch for where that slight risk may be next by 9 p.m. EST, as we may be able to see it pushed towards more northern central Florida, and maybe even possibly off towards the eastern coast of Florida. Um, and then we can also take a look at some of our cold front relative directional shear here. Taking a look at our wind vectors, you can see on the eastern side of our cold front, we are seeing quite a bit of southerly flow out of the south. And then on the west side of our cold front, we are seeing quite a bit of west southwesterly flow. And if we were to put a pinwheel on on the cold front, it would be spinning quite rapidly, actually. So that is giving us a ton of directional shear relative to the cold front, which will give us the possibility of a few tornadoes embedded in the rain showers that we are expected to see along that cold front for today. Taking a look at our weather model, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do, focusing on the entire marginal slight risk area for the eastern half of the United States. We do have that low pressure system that we have been tracking over the last couple of days that did lead to some severe thunderstorms. Yesterday in middle and western Tennessee. My heart goes out to anyone that may have been impacted in either Clarksville or in northern Nashville by those tornadoes. Again, my heart goes out to you, and I hope that you guys can find help. But this low pressure system has elongated quite a bit. And is now kind of like pushing eastward as a very broad exit region is out ahead of that trough there, and that is what's driving the cold front, and it's also what's going to be supporting the threat for severe thunderstorms, while the cold front is actually going to be the thing triggering them. And then with a strong cold front relative shear, we are expected to see a ton of directional shear come from this trough. As you can see, it gets very tight and very strong in a very small location before exiting out into the eastern half of the United States, and that's what's going to be leading to a ton of directional shear, not only a cold front relative, but also with a trough. So that should be quite a lot of shear to support the threat for a few tornadoes across this area. And then taking a look at the composite reflectivity, I'm going to be going over the when and where you should be able to see our severe thunderstorms for today. I'm going to be focusing more so on the southern half because of the fact that the northern half is very broken up, and it's going to be a little bit more harder to put a time on when the storm should impact. But as of right now, we are seeing those storms approach the Tampa region. In fact, by now they should be impacting the Tampa region. However, those rain showers should clear out and also weaken down a little bit as time goes forward. Around 8 to 7 p.m. in Tampa, and then we may be able to see a second line of rain showers back behind that may impact Tampa later on tonight around 10 to 11 p.m. And then towards the north, we are expected to see that line of rain showers continue to feed northward. Um, and again, it is very broken up here, so it's going to be a little bit more harder to put a time on when you should be able to see our rain showers, because it's going to be raining pretty much all day with some breaks in between. But the rain showers should begin to clear out around 4 a.m. To the early morning of tomorrow is when you should be able to see those rain showers clear out. And then we can also explain our flash flooding threat for the northern Atlantic coast. Because of how our cold front is positioned, it is just going to be feeding northward for almost the entire day, leading to non-stop rainfall towards the northern half of the Atlantic coast. And that's going to be acting like an atmospheric river and just lead to a ton of non-stop rainfall for the northern half of the Atlantic coast, and that is going to be accumulating over time and leading to a very good chance for flash flooding in some low-lying areas in the northern half of the Atlantic coast. So definitely make sure you are watching out for any flooded roads if you have any plans on traveling through this area, as a ton of rainfall is expected. And now I'm going to be going into the deep nitty gritty of things about our dew points and our severe thunderstorm threat for today. So because of how the trough is positioned, it is expected to be pulling a ton of moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico, as well as use some of the moisture from the close proximity to the Atlantic Ocean. To be fueling our severe thunderstorms for today, but because of how the trough is going to be pulling a ton of moisture, heat, and instability out of the Gulf of Mexico, that should constantly replenish moisture ahead of the squall line, which should keep storms going for quite a long time, because we aren't really expected to see instability run out, because it's just going to be constantly replenished by the trough pulling it out of the Gulf of Mexico. And we are expected to see dew points that are going to be quite strong as well, but dew points are going to be ranging anywhere from the low 60s into the mid 60s, possibly getting into some of the upper 60s. Closer to the Gulf of Mexico, which is going to be leading to quite a bit of instability depending on our temperatures. And then taking a look at our temperatures, we are expected to see temperatures that are going to be staying mostly around the 60s, the mid 60s, possibly getting close to those upper 70s in some parts of Florida, and even into the 80s in parts of southern Florida, which is kind of crazy for December if you think about it. Um, However, due to the widespread, fairly moderate temperatures, we aren't really expected to see anything crazy as far as instability. Our instability should be enough to fuel a threat for severe thunderstorms, but overall it should be fairly moderate. We aren't, again, expected to see a crazy amount of instability. But then we can also take a look at some of our more widespread temperatures. Behind the cold front that just passed through, we are expected to see a ton of very frigid temperatures, especially at night for a very large portion of the United States. In the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and anywhere north of those states could possibly see down to below freezing temperatures tonight, especially in the states of Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, South Dakota, North Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming, and across the Rockies, as well as Nebraska and Kansas. We are expected to see some very, very cold temperatures tonight, so definitely make sure you are staying weather alert and watching out for those if you have any plans on going outside tonight. It's just going to be quite cold, so definitely make sure you wear a jacket. Taking a look at our instability, focusing on the marginal slight risk areas, because of how moderate our temperatures are, we are seeing not really the best instability. Our instability is probably going to be a little bit more better on our surface instability, so I'm going to be going down to that. We are seeing some fairly good surface instability, which may be carrying the tornado threat for the most part and fueling these severe thunderstorms and the possibility of some damaging winds and a few tornadoes embedded in the rain showers for today. Um, Even if our instability doesn't really look the best, it still will be enough to support the threat for a few tornadoes with some of the rain showers. But overall, our tornado threat isn't going to be too great, especially compared to yesterday, because we are not really seeing a whole lot of instability. And then taking a look at our energy helicity index, um, it does look like our energy helicity index models do agree with the fact that our most unstable cape isn't really the best. However, it doesn't really take into account our surface instability. Um, if we don't have strong most unstable cape, then our energy helicity index values won't really show up as really all that much. On our 0 to 3 kilometer, we are seeing a couple of areas, which would be mostly indicative of a low end 2% tornado threat. But the majority of our instability should be in our lower levels, and even if our energy elasticity index values aren't really indicating all that much, our surface instability should definitely be able to support the threat of a few tornadoes with some of the rain showers embedded in the lines of rain showers that we should see today. And then taking a look at our wind gust, we're going to be taking a look at how strong we are expected to see our winds for today, and it is going to be quite windy, especially back behind the cold front. Probably not initially ahead of the cold front, but especially with some of those rain showers and back behind that cold front, it should be quite windy with wind gusts that could be possibly getting up to 40 to 45 miles per hour, ranging anywhere from 30 to 45 miles per hour, um, associated with those lines of rain showers and that cold front, and then it should be quite windy in the New England corridor here. And this isn't really associated with a cold front per se, but it is expected to be quite windy ahead of the cold front. Um, the coming out of the Atlantic Ocean with wind gusts that could possibly be getting up to the 50s to 55 miles per hour. So it's going to be quite windy across the Atlantic coast, and even if we aren't seeing those 40 50 miles per hour wind gusts with those with the rain showers and the cold front, even back behind the cold front somewhat, it is going to be quite windy with the wind gusts that could be getting upwards of 20 to 30 miles per hour um, across the Ohio River Valley in the deep south. And then taking a look at our total precipitation models, we're going to be going over how much rain we are expected to see fall from the sky, especially with that moderate threat for flash flooding in the New England region. In that moderate threat area, we could possibly see rainfall totals upwards of 4 inches to 5 inches in that moderate threat area. So again, it's going to be very, very rainy across the New England region and the northern Atlantic coast because of how our cold front is going to be feeding up into the northern regions. So again, it's going to be very, very rainy with the very, very good possibility of some flash flooding for the New England region for today. And then let's take a look at how much snowfall we are expected to see for today. We are expected to see quite a bit of snowfall for not only the Appalachian regions, where we are expected to see the majority of our snowfall, but also up across the New England corridor and some of the more flat areas towards the west and east of the Appalachian Mountains. Up in New York and Pennsylvania, we could possibly see some snowfall totals that could average anywhere from 3 inches to possibly 4 to 5 inches, with snowfall totals getting as high as 6 inches in some regions of New York, and towards the north, some models are indicating upwards of 9 inches in a very small portion of northern New York. But overall, we are expected to see the possibility of less than an inch of snowfall for Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and some isolated areas of Wisconsin. And then we can also take a look at the Rocky Mountains, where we are expected to see the possibility of some light heavy snow. Overall, snow should be quite light in the Rocky Mountains, which is probably going to average anywhere from less than an inch to 1 inch, with some models indicating that we could possibly see up to 2 inches in some regions. It did say 4 inches down here, but that is likely not going to be all that possible with the snowfall that we are expected to see for today because of how it is in such a concentrated small area there. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And if you live in any of the areas that I covered for today, please stay weather alert for the time being. And if you notice anything might have been wrong with this forecast, or you would like to make a suggestion or ask a question, please leave a comment. Two other channels that I highly suggest you check out are One Nation Weather and Weather Watcher. The links to their channels will be in the description, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.